What's up, y'all? Hope everyone had a good week. I had some base hits on SoFi and TQQQ throughout the week. I also sold some of my higher cost average lots in Archer Aviation in my long term. I'm in the process of repurchasing those shares here in the coming days. As you can see, having to pull back today. We'll go over that later on in the video. Today, I also want to talk about my morning routine and things that I'm still working on as a trader. I also want to talk about some of the economic reports that came out this week. Now, none of this is financial advice, and always do your due diligence. Now that I got that out of the way, let's get started. So, this chart is SoFi yesterday, and as I was watching the chart, I saw that price had come down and made this low and saw this bottoming tail on this 5-minute. I entered around the whole dollar, around 17.98, and held that as it broke VWAP and exited on this red candle here with the topping tail. So that was about a 15-cent scalp. Here's another trade that I took in TQQQ. I bought this dip here at 73.30 and capitalized pretty much that whole green candle there and exited somewhere at the top, pretty close to VWAP. Since we had economic reports coming out this week, I only wanted to do scalps and time my entries the best that I could. Now let's look at some of the economic reports that had come out. So Wednesday was the core inflation CPI report. And as you can see from the numbers, it was a little bit lower than previous and in line with consensus. Then we go to Thursday. Thursday was PPI. That's Producer Price Index. And this is all for the month of July. So PPI, no change there month over month. Core was lower than previous. Also had jobless claims, as you can see here. So overall, not too bad. Then today we had retail sales and the Michigan consumer sentiment. Retail sales was a miss, as you can see, for the month of July. Negative 0.6%. Previous was 2 on the month over month. Michigan consumer sentiment was down. 5-year inflation expectations. These are the preliminary. And you can see that this here is at 50.6, so lower than previous. And I believe that's what is causing the downturn we're seeing this morning. I will pull up TQs. Now this is a triple leverage off of NASDAQ. Let's scroll to today. As you can see, choppy open and then just sold off. This morning, I had 2 terrible trades, still came out flat, but had some 2 trades in this area here. And, price didn't do what I wanted it to do, so I just cut both trades flat. Now, for my morning routine, every morning I take my dog out, I feed her breakfast, get my coffee, boot up the station, get all my platforms squared away. Then I'm ready for my pre-market prep. So my pre-market prep is going to depend on what's going on for that morning. Sometimes we have earnings. Sometimes we have economic data come out, and also news headlines, what's going on in the markets. If maybe Trump made some remarks, and check price action as those things come out. By doing that, kind of helps me with the overall sentiment of the market. So by doing that, it'll kind of help me formulate possible trades throughout the day, possible things I could add to in my long term. Now, doing this helps me kind of gauge or formulate a bias on which direction markets might go. Now, I say that, but one thing I like to do is not ever get married to my bias. So, in my opinion, going into the open, I will have a certain bias, but I know that, things could change. So, in my opinion, you should try to be fluid in your bias and look at what price and the charts are telling you. So I pretty much follow that process for all the stocks I trade in the morning pre-market. And I try to get all that done by 7:30, 7:45 a.m. Now I'm located here in Texas, so it's going to be Central Time. And for me, markets open at 8:30. So having all that done about an hour prior to the opening bell helps me to be able to get it done early and use that time before the bell hits to kind of meditate and get my mind in the right headspace. Sometimes life happens, things outside of trading that can have an effect on your mind. And what I want to do is before the bell is clear my mind of whatever stresses I have outside of trading or whatever, because not having the right mindset or the attitude going into the trading day, that can lead to you making mistakes, not thinking clearly. Our job as traders is to look at the market objectively. That definitely has helped me, and I've done that from ever since I started. And it's not an easy thing and something that I constantly work on every day. I have found that once you do your studies and figure out technicals and fundamentals, once you learn all that, I think, at least for me, most of the time it's psychological. Once you get to a certain point in your trading journey, trader psychology plays such a big role in your performance. I have found that trading can be a very powerful teacher. It can teach you a lot about yourself, and whatever you have that's unresolved inside of you will show up in your trading. Like if you're impatient, the market will expose it. If you're fearful, the market will amplify it. If you're arrogant, the market will humble you. Now for the opening bell. So during the intraday session, so I'll treat each part of the day differently. During the morning session, that would be opening bell till maybe 11 o'clock. I will trade a certain way. And then you have the afternoon session from 11 to, let's say, 1 o'clock. Now, keep in mind, this is central time for me. And then, then I have the last hour of the day. People call that power hour. And so sometimes you'll see moves that last hour of the market. I've been told that last hour is pretty much, a lot of times it's institutions getting in or out of positions. So that last hour of the market can be pretty volatile, and you could see moves up or down that you could capitalize on. And sometimes I do, or maybe news headlines at the end of the day. That's how I like to break up my trading day. And looking at my metrics, most of my profits come in the morning. So that's when you get the most participation, and that's where I have made most of my profits. Now on to things that I'm working on. So at the moment, I've been working on sizing up and knowing when it's appropriate to do that, scaling in and out, and holding positions longer. So before I ever take a trade, I'm always evaluating the risk and reward, and also grading each setup. Now, this is different for everybody, but for me, I really like the overbought reversals. You can kind of see one here. But for me, that's kind of where I've made most of my money. So for me, that's pretty much an A plus setup. Before entering the trade, grading it, evaluating risk reward, and if it's an A plus setup, I've been working on trying to go in a little heavier with position size. And another thing that I've been working on too is being able to scale in and out. So sometimes I'll take little starter positions if it's not quite an A plus setup. And if direction goes in my favor, then it gives me more confidence to add. I'll add to the position and have marked out, where I want to start taking profit and start to scale out as the price moves in my favor. Another thing that I'm working on too is holding positions longer. So trying to spot a trend and getting as best entry as possible and trying to hold throughout the trend. So one thing that I use to help me do that is MACD. So using MACD as a tool to help me figure out when I need to get out the trade instead of having my emotions tell me to get out the trade. I'm slowly making progress in these areas. I know that trading is a journey, not a destination. And this is a craft that I intend to constantly try to perfect. Perfection's not attainable, but you can try to strive for it. Anyways, I hope this helps. Remember, at the end of the day, we as traders are nothing but risk managers. If we can do that well, profits will follow. Markets can be a great teacher. We just have to be humble enough to listen. That's going to do it. Y'all stay disciplined, be patient, and stay objective. Y'all have a good weekend.